What up, guys? It's your host, Eric the Unit Norris of SLC Punkcast, and welcome to this week's edition of Live and Wired and Tales from the Pit. And guys, I have a loaded one for you today, because not only did I attend 2 shows this last weekend, I also played them. Both of my bands, Apathetics and Anonymous, were booked back-to-back. Separate venues, separate shows. Yeah, it was a fun time, to say the least. So without further ado, let's get into this episode of Tale from the Pit. I am calling 2 bands, 2 sets, 2 venues, 2 nights. Too much? Hell no. So yeah, this is the tale of how both of my bands were booked separately on back-to-back bills. Anonymous was at Aces High for Warm Veins' album release show with Gracemaker and Vape Plug on Friday, and Apathetics was at the Poser Palace, my venue, for Mellow Panic's first show, along with Never Don'ts and Knuckles and Pirates of the Promised Land on Saturday. And it was a lot of fun, that is. So yeah, Warm Veins' album release show, it was a great time. Vape Plug, they were pretty fun. They were a 3-piece with an old school, very Germs-like sound, like when punk was getting grittier and meaner, like that turn of the decade, late 70s, early 80s, you know what I mean? Their guitarist and singer, he played with, one interesting thing, he played his guitar with his fingers, which was kind of weird. I don't know what not like finger picking, like you see people do on those nylon string classical guitars. No, I'm talking like, he didn't have long nails or anything like that function as picks. He was just playing it like with his fingertips. And then, of course, just like strumming it with the tips of his fingers, like with his fingernails. I don't know what the point is about that. Picks aren't that hard to come by, but maybe that's just what makes sense to him. Anyway, they played a quick 20-minute set, which was enough for them given the short order format of their music, which was also very lo-fi, which isn't a bad thing, but it doesn't lend itself to be played in a barroom setting or any like bigger venue, because the sound just doesn't carry, not with their equipment anyway. And they were definitely a basement band, and that's where their type of music thrives. So yeah, no diss on them or their sound or anything. It's just like, we know where you come from. We know where you, I don't want to say ought to stay, but I'm like, because anyone should be allowed to play anywhere, I think, unless it's case by case, but unless that person is a fucking creep or a racist or something like that. But no, if you're like a 3-piece band with a very lo-fi sound, smaller venues are more your bread and butter. I'll say that. Anyway, my band, Anonymous, we did pretty well this time around. We played pretty much the exact same set we've been playing since we got back from our hiatus, just the same 5 songs in the same order that we play them. Halo Head, Warmongers, then Parasite, Vice, and Abandoned Existence. So yeah, that's kind of that's the order, and we're sticking to it, until we start getting new material out there, which we are doing. We just, we don't have any new shows coming up. Like, we have at least not until May. Yeah, we don't have any shows until May. So we're going to be coming back. We're going to be coming back with a fully calibrated band. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, my set. We played the same set, and I was dancing around on stage, slamming around pretty fucking hard. I was getting in people's faces and basically yelling until my lungs collapsed. I was so winded by our last song. I was jumping over lyrics just to try and catch my breath. I can't see another way out of this life. It was, but nobody could really tell, and people sort of got the idea. It's like, yeah, we get it. You're up there. You're going crazy. The band that came up afterwards, Gracemaker, and they were amazing. It was my first time seeing them play. Like, I'd heard their music, I was familiar with their music, but I never seen them before. And their music's always been interesting to me. It's hardcore, but super experimental. Like, kind of on the same level as Refused, I would say. Not to say that they're a carbon copy. I mean, no one can copy the Refused and make it sound good, if not the same. What I mean is, they've used a litany of like different instruments to achieve their sound, like in the studio on their album, and adding them in the live setting is achieved through the use of pedal boards and also these sample emulators. I describe them as like if King Crimson were a hardcore band. Or if Pink Floyd were a hardcore band. Basically, any prog band from the 60s or 70s. Give them an aggressive vocalist and throw in some breakdowns. Yeah, you got Gracemaker. That's the Cliff Notes way of putting it. And anyway, it's just awesome seeing these 4 talented motherfuckers come together and create such an interesting musical concoction. Matt is a killer guitarist with such a dynamic range, and his precise placement of effects with his effects pedals just adds to the experience. And Batty, he is one hell of a vocalist. Coming off of the underground success of Threer and finding a new outlet, being the wild frontman of another band, one that is probably equally as wild as him. I mean, he busted out a tambourine mid-set and started banging it on his head between lines, between his vocals or his lyrics. Yeah, such a sight to behold. And yeah, Charles, he's one of the best drummers in Salt Lake. His work in Parallax and Ditching the Delta speak for themselves. And Darren is just a beast of a bassist. He can be so simple and chonky, but also so technical and showy, but always the link between Charles and Matt keeping the structure together. Finally, Warm Banes. Now, Gracemaker was sure was a tough act to follow, because you're following a wild and eccentric band with slower shoegaze music with metallic leanings. But it was their show, so of course they were headlining, but contextually speaking, it didn't make sense. But, I mean, Warm Veins consists of Josh on guitar and vocals and Sean on drums, who were both in Suffocator together, which, after that band went on hiatus, they formed this band. And it's great that the music bug is still alive between these two, even though they are currently without a bassist. But they performed well, not nearly as much energy as Gracemaker, like I said, but they still kept people inside the bar watching them instead of the people just funneling out into the smoke area or leaving the show, God forbid. Overall, it was a great time. We slamming back a few with some friends and watching them make asses out of themselves on stage, as we also made asses of ourselves. And yeah, but that's what it's all about at the end of the day, right? Or at the end of the night. It's just about fun. But yeah, we're just getting started. The next day, I was scheduled to play a show at my house, and I also had to work the door. And this wasn't an event with low attendance. There were faces I've never seen, friends of friends of friends coming up and giving me their money for admittance, and even some parents bringing their little kids, and some friends of mine bringing the beer. And this was my friend Zach Mayer's new band's first show. Technically second, but it's their first with their new vocalist, and he wanted to make sure that everything was just right. He even brought in like recording equipment and actual set lights to film their set. It was pretty professional for a garage show. We even kept the lights up during the whole time, at least after they had put them up, because yeah, it just made everything look nice. It illuminated everything. Felt like it was an actual venue, like a professional venue. Anyway, Knuckles was the first to take the proverbial stage. Their combination of shoegazy, emo/pop punk made for them to be a great opener for a bit of a mixed genre bill. They sounded damn great. And the music was pretty chill. Well, compared to the next act, that is. Mellow Panic was formed by Zach Mayers out of the ashes of his previous band, Still Fighting God, which, if you remember, was a mix of early post-hardcore and emo with unwavering angst. And that same energy carried over into this band, but with a different type of vocals. And Still Fighting God singer Parker had that classic tortured soul projection, partly singing, partly screaming, but filled with a lot of torment. And Mellow Panic singer, I do not know her name. They told me and I forgot it, but she is more calm and restrained with a melody that carries over the chaotic music. It's very gothic, very ethereal, very like Chelsea Wolfe type vocals. It's smooth that way. So it sort of gives, it's sort of like Still Fighting God, but with a gothic vocalist, and her performance was excellent, especially considering that this was her very first time singing to a crowd. Not first time playing with this band, just first time performing in front of people. Like, period. That was, there were some hiccups here and there, but, that happens to anyone. She did very well for her debut performance. It was pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. And Zach, of course, he was just in his element, playing the weird stringy chord progressions and simple pop-punk riffs for which I've always known him to be a master. They were fun. Mellow Panic, great band. Definitely check them out when they're playing next. The next time that they play. They're getting their name out there. I'm sure their next show is going to be better than this one. And this show was great. Like I said, they're documenting it. They have it. They recorded everything, so you'll be able to see the full. You'll be able to see the full show, not just the little clips that I captured that I'm showing here. And then Pirates of the Promised Land. They have never played a bad show, at least none of which that I attended. Their onstage presence is magnetic, especially when they're cracking wise in between songs. Yep, a lot of sex jokes and a lot of your mom jokes, some of which led into incest jokes. Because I did. Because I made it that way. I even made a comment. It's like, oh, that's big talk coming from a man who has a Texas flag on his tattooed on his arm. I said, no, it's a Cuban flag. Learn your flags. Which, it's not entirely my fault. If you look at the Texas state flag and the Cuba's national flag, they look very similar. They got the single, blue rectangle on the side with a single star inside of it. And then there is and then there's the red stripe on the top half of the flag on the other side, and then the white one on the bottom. Basically they're damn near identical. It's just the placement of the color. It's sort of like looking at the Irish flag versus the Italian flag, or the Italian flag versus the Mexican flag. The Mexican flag has a little emblem in the middle, but yeah, you learn something new every day. Thank you, Chris, for for pointing that out, for teaching us about national banners. Anyway, their set was great. Their attitude very positive. And Chris, he can certainly shred too. I wish I got a video of him just shredding away on that first song they played. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, he knows how to rip it on the guitar. Very strung out of him. Now, Never Don'ts, that was the band I was most excited about for this show. Conrad, their singer, he's always bugged me about getting on a show at my house, but it just never worked out. Schedules never aligned, or the bill was full, and he responded too late, or all this stuff. And yeah, since Poser Palace will be shutting down, I urged him. I used that as a major bargaining chip, saying that this would be their last chance. And obviously, they took me up on the offer, and all seven of them squeezed in my garage, and they got mic'd up. Mostly, their trumpet player was not mic'd up, but didn't matter. His trumpet carried. Their saxophonist actually needed a mic. But yeah, once they did get mic'd up, they went right into their ska punk insanity. People were skanking and shuffling all around the garage, and Conrad was lapping up every moment of this set. Now, this 7-piece consisted of a collective 30 years experience in the SLC ska scene. It was practically a super group, and they play like their skills aged like a fine wine. If anyone is to bring back ska to this city, and I'm just happy that it's the Never Don'ts. Among others, of course, I haven't forgot about you, Atypical Heroes. You guys are awesome. And even though you guys aren't a band anymore, one too many's. Thank you for keeping it alive when you guys were around. I love you. Love you, Bo, Kid. You guys kicked ass. And also some of the more established ones like Make Waves, they're still making waves. And Avenues have reunited. Definitely more on the punk side than the ska side, but they have their moments. So yeah, ska is definitely coming back. I would wager to say it is back. But anyway, moving on, Apathetics. We closed out the night. We had a killer set playing our hit songs, and we also excited people with our new ones. And we also had Chris and Steve from Pirates join us on vocals for our cover of Alkaline Trio's Private Eye. And I kept apparently spoiling surprises, including that one. and Josh expressed his deepest love for me and said that if I died, I'd have the biggest funeral. Well, I'm going to hold you to that, Josh. I will. Otherwise, I will. I'm joking. Or maybe I'm not. We'll see. We will see. Maybe you'll die before me. Oh God! Now I'm putting that out into the. Ether. Let's not make any omens for ourselves. Let's not jinx anybody or anyone here. This is just times are strange right now. They've been strange for a while. Anyway, yeah. So that was basically our set. Oh well, there was one funny thing I noticed, and this may just be me tooting my own horn a little bit, but. While I was playing specific songs where my walking bass lines were the most prevalent, when I looked up and looked into the crowd, I saw Zach pointing at me, or pointing like toward my bass. He was pointing me out to his friend Noah, who was also the bassist in his band. And Noah, he was looking and he was just analyzing me playing. I'm like, okay, I think Zach is kind of talking me up. And sure enough, Noah, that kid, came up to me after our set and expressed great admiration of my skills and that he aspires one day to play that way. Now that was very gratifying. I mean, I've gotten compliments on my bass playing skills before, like from my friends or my girlfriend and my bandmates, but this is the first time that someone whom I've never met came up to me after a show and basically tell me that I've inspired them pretty much. Like, that was incredibly rewarding for me. And, I responded by telling him that it's taken me almost 20 years to get to where I am today, and I still believe that there is room for improvement. I kind of gave him that old, keep at it and you'll do fine, sonny. It definitely felt that way. It felt like I was being the old seasoned music veteran or some shit like that. I don't know. This, like I said, this is the first time I've gotten a compliment like this in that setting. So, yeah, I don't know how to respond. Anyway, so that was the show. And this could have been Poser Palace's last show. It could have been the last show, and I'd have been fine with that. It went off very smoothly. The crowd was awesome, and my band would fittingly have played the last ever set of this venue's existence. It would have, poetically, it would have just been like a nice poetic conclusion, but We have one more show in the books before we close up. It's later this month. Stay tuned. Anyway, so that night, as a nightcap, me, Conrad, Zach, and our various mutuals rendezvoused over at the Belgian Waffle to get some food in us, and we regaled each other with so many of our own tales from the pit, and also other places. A lot of it was funny, some concerning, and there was some shit talking because people be dumb. Or people be awful. I mean, Conrad was telling me all the times that he had hung out with Stizza Crack, Stizza from Leftover Crack. Because, my band Anonymous will be playing with Leftover Crack, and Conrad won't be there to watch the show. He is really bummed about that. He's bummed about that, but he told us of all the times he was hanging out with him and how he realized how terrible a person this guy is, actually is. Walked in on him and he was actually smoking crack. He had a crack pipe in his mouth and even offered some of it to Conrad. You want some? And Conrad's like, hell no! The fuck do you think this is? I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, and that was most of the night. We spent like an hour in that parking lot, all of us just talking with everybody. Just, again, regaling you with our own tales, our own little stories, our own anecdotes. It was a fun time. And then one by one, people started leaving. It's like, hey, I got to go home. I'm getting tired. And then I realized it's 1 a.m. I go, oh, shit. I got to get home to my girlfriend. And I did. It was, overall, it was a great night. A great weekend, 2 nights in a row playing sets with both of my bands. Yeah, it would have been a hell of a time if both of my bands played both of those shows. Fucking back to back to back to back. That would have been crazy. That would have been super fucking crazy. I don't know if I would have had the energy for it, but I barely had the energy for this weekend. And I'm happy that it went off. I'm happy that it went off the way that it did. So I'm stoked. I'm stoked that happened. So thank you for listening to that tale from the pit. It was pretty loaded. I told you. I gave you a warning beforehand. It was loaded. Anyway, you know what else is loaded? This upcoming week and a half of, mostly week. It's kind of a week and a half. It's a week and a quarter. We'll say that. A week and a quarter of all these live shows that are happening in and around the Salt Lake area and some up north and I think a few down south. We shall see. But yeah, we're going to start with the 16th, this Saturday. Yeah. Or not the 16th. I'm sorry. The 14th. 14th. I'm getting a little too ahead of myself right there. I mean, I've already posted about these shows on my Instagram, but yeah, the 14th is going to have these shows as follows. It's we got a Wild West booking show with Big Boy, Apex Predator, Paradise, and Taste of Blood. That's going to be at One Love Coffee. $20 if you buy in advance. $25 day of show starting at 7 p.m. And then yeah, there's going to be a bit of a pre-St. Paddy's Day Irish bash at the Handlebar with Murphy and the Giant and Hi-Fi Murder. It's not taking place on St. Patrick's Day. It's a St. Paddy's Day themed show, the weekend leading up to St. Paddy's Day. People are already celebrating. You know how it goes. Anyway, that'll be starting at 5 p.m. And then the show that I'm definitely going to be attending, I had to make this flyer, by the way, because no flyer exists. No flyer existed. I searched high and low. I kept checking back as it got closer and closer to the show until I decided, fuck it. I'm making my own damn flyer. Eat shit. So yeah, as you can see, Spiritual Cramp, along with Destiny Bond, No Guard, and Skin Show. That's going to be at Kilby Court. It's $30, starts at 6 p.m. I am excited to see Spiritual Cramp. And these other bands, I looked into them, Destiny Bond and No Guard, they're pretty fucking awesome too. No Guard's a pretty heavy skinhead band. And Skin Show, well, I've never seen them. They're local, and I've never seen them, so this will be fun. Yeah, and another little underground show right here. We got Mage. I think that's how you pronounce it. Mage? I don't know. I mean, you guys can barely read it, but that's what it says. I mean, I could barely read it. But that's why you have me as a translator. Yeah, so those guys. Then Griebler, Malfeasance, and Gusano. That's going to be at a venue where you have to ask a punk. You got to know somebody to get there. And pay what you can. Any money you got on you, just send it their way. And then starts at 6 p.m. And then finally, over at Aces High Saloon, there's going to be the Fire in the Mountains Community Pop-Up, the Salt Lake edition, with the bands Fife, Vicious Rumors, Acid Hologram, and Chasm Lurk. That's going to be $15 if you buy online, $20 if you buy at the door. It starts at 8 p.m. Okay, now let's move on to the 16th. Gargoyle, Primitive Rage, Run It Back, and One Sided. Going to be playing at Fellowship Hall. That is $15, and it starts at 7 p.m. And then the Thrash of the Titans are coming to Salt Lake. This Thrash of the Titans tour features Testament, Overkill, and Destruction. I don't know why Exodus is not on there anymore. I am bummed. At least it would have been I don't know. It would have been cool, but Exodus is coming. They are coming with, Jesus. Not with Jesus. Although that does make sense. They're coming with Sepultura later on this year. I think in May. Yeah, that's going to be a fun one, though. But yeah, I'm bitching about no Exodus. We got Testament, man. We got the Old Testament, the cool one. And then we have Overkill and Destruction. I've never seen either of those bands. And Destruction, they're from Germany. Who knows when they're going to come back. But anyway, that'll be at the Complex. Not unclear as to what the price is going to be, but I wager it'd be around like $50. We'll see. Something like that. And then on St. Patrick's Day, Folk Haugen, Sean Baker's Recycled Stardust, and Heathen Highlanders will be playing at the Funkin' Dive Bar up in Ogden. That's going to be starting at 6 p.m. Meanwhile, our friends in Scary Uncle Stave and the Sunnybrook Sailors are joining forces. It's called, under the moniker, Scary Uncle Skunk and the Sunnybrook Sailors. The fella named Skunk is now singing for Sunnybrook Sailors, only to play a special cover set by the Mischief Brew. Mischief Brew, R.I.P. Eric Peterson. Wonderful man, wonderful singer, wonderful songwriter. Mischief Brew was a great band. And if you loved them, then you're going to love how these people pay tribute to him. That'll be at Aces High Saloon. It is a free show. Free show. So no excuses on that one. And it starts at 8 p.m. I hope to see you there, laddies. I hope that was a passable Irish accent. Sounds different. Sounds different coming out of my gourd. Anyway, moving on. March 18th. Frick is playing with Up to Something and Atypical Heroes at Aces High. That's gonna be fun. Atypical Heroes and Frick always put on a fun show. Never seen Up to Something, so that'll be fun. If you're up to nothing, then get up to this. At Aces High Saloon, $10, starts at 8 p.m. And then, meanwhile, Varials, the mighty metalcore band Varials, is coming to Salt Lake with Unity from Texas and Heavy Hitter and Bolt Cutter. That will be at the Soundwell. It is $22, and it starts at 7 p.m. Then on the 19th, there's the March issue Slug Localized. My friends in Nadezhda and Gracemaker all got localized. You know how I feel about Gracemaker. I've talked about Nadezhda on the show before. And who should be playing with them but my other friends in Makana? What a great fucking lineup. What a great lineup. You got your weird experimental hardcore bands and then just straightforward hardcore. Yeah. There's enough to please everybody in there. Anyway, that will be at Kilby Court. It's a $5 show. Starts at 6 p.m. And then on the 20th, Grave Huffer, Grindscape, Vicious Souls will be playing at Aces High Saloon. That is $15 and starts at 8 p.m. And Sabotage, Plumeria, Luxic, and Sectide will be playing up at Black Lung Society. That is a $12 show if you're paying cash, $15 if you're paying through Venmo. Starts at 7 p.m. And then Broken Focus, Fight the Future, Bloody September, and Drop the Gloves will be down here at Fellowship Hall. That is a $12 show, and that starts at 7 p.m. And then the Lucha Project is at it again with their Queen of the Beehive showcase. This will include the bands P.S. Destroy This, Molotovin, Malgoth Moss, and Willow. That will be at the Church and State. That's going to be a hell of a venue for them. Definitely going to have the ring. There will definitely be the ring in there. Do you have the ring? No, I thought you had the ring. Where is the ring? The one ring. The big ring. Okay, that's enough of that. $25 if you buy in advance, $30 at the door, and starts at 7 p.m. And finally, we're going to get to the 21st. The 21st will include the band, my God, Transmissions from the Dead's EP release show with Reapers in the Sky, the Goonbats, and Death Persona and Cinder. That'll be over at Aces High Saloon. It's $10 and starts at 7 p.m. Then there's going to be Spy, Knife Point, and Skin Show at One Love Coffee. That is a $20 show, and that starts at 7 p.m. And then the actual final show at the Poser Palace. Poser Palace's last show before we shut down. Debasers, Molotovin, and Counterviolence. That is a pretty decent lineup. Debasers never played Poser Palace before, and it'd be nice to have those guys on there. I love Debasers. I think they're such a great band with great people in there. Yeah, I love Dalby. I love Pharaoh. They've just been stand-up fellas for years. Anyway, $10 starts at 6 p.m. Make it out if you can. Be nice to have a good enough crowd for Poser Palace's final hurrah. Anyway, guys, that is it for me. That's everything that I've gotten from this weekend and everything to announce for next week. So, yeah, I can't guarantee I'll have more tales from the pit next week. Well, I'll at least have one. It remains to be seen if I will have two. But yeah, that's why we do what we do. We go out there and find out shit about ourselves and our likes and dislikes and what interests us and what we want to keep doing. That's life, folks. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope that this was an entertaining episode for all of you. I hope that it was informative, and I hope that it's inspired you to go out and check out some of the shows that I have mentioned. Or if you're listening to this from afar, from a different city, different state, different country even, I mean, get invested in your local scene. See what's going on over there. You know, you don't really have to look far. Unless you're living in a rural community that's like 20 years behind the times and, you know, the nearest town is like 2 hours away. But so yeah, case by case. But the point is, if you're in an urban squalor like the rest of us, if you're in an urban industrious place or a prosperous place where there's a lot of people around, it's an actual city, yeah, you don't have to look far to find your local scene. So guys, thank you for joining me this week. And I hope that you all have a great week. I hope that you come out. I hope that you go out and find a show and enjoy yourselves. Be safe. And hopefully you return unscathed. And if you don't, you'll at least have a story to go along with it. Once again, guys, I am Eric the Unit Norris from SLC Punkcast, Live and Wired, Tales from the Pit. And I am signing off, handing this over to Dustin. I'll see you in the pit, motherfuckers. Peace.
Thank you, Eric. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the show I went and saw this week. I don't do nearly as many as Eric, but I guess at least my tale from the pit. I got to see Atypical Heroes open up for their a local band here in Salt Lake. This was at the Beehive in downtown Salt Lake City. Got to see my pal Conrad working the door, co-owns the venue. Also got to see Hans Gruber and the Diehards. Love them. They kill it. If you haven't seen them do it, the Congo line's awesome. The Sock Puppet song is awesome. Such a great show. Second time got to see them. Last time about a year ago or so, something like that. And got to see them over at Aces High. But this time over at the Beehive. It was fantastic. Picked up their new LP, their album there from them. And then got to see Crazy in the Brains, who were fantastic again. I mean, they're kind of different every time, but Christoph, awesome saxophone player on this go-around, guitar, sax. Christoph, they did punk rocker at the end, brought a ton of people on stage, had a bunch of young kids just threw a guitar on one of them that knew how to play, and he played, and he killed it. It was a lot of fun. If you get the chance, go see them. They were all with Last Gang. I like Last Gang. I was a little tired. Haven't been to a show in a minute. I was tired. What can I say? Last Gang's cool, though. They're the headliner. Make sure you go check them out. And as you can tell on the flyer, I mean, they're getting ready to wrap it up. But today they're in Colorado Springs, then Durango. They were in Denver last night and saw them over on Thursday. Next up, we've got a little bit left of this first part of the tour here on the Bad Time Records tour. These bands were in Salt Lake. Missed them, wanted to see them, but again, just couldn't make it, unfortunately. But they'll be in Berkeley on the 16th, Santa Ana on the 17th, LA on the 18th, San Diego on the 19th, Mesa, Arizona 20th, and then wrapping up this leg of the tour in Albuquerque, New Mexico. But you get to see Kill Lincoln, Jer, Bad Operation. Sorry Sweetheart was coming through here, but I think it looks like 2:30 and Omnigon will be doing some of those upcoming shows. And then there's a whole other bit to that flyer, so you can go over to Bad Time Rec if you want to get more on that one. Next up, what do we got? Grade 2, what do they got on their tour? They only have a couple shows coming up, as you can see on the flyer. They'll be in Belfast on the 20th, Dublin on the 21st. Then a week later, they're in Nottingham and Leeds. And on the 30th, looks like in Manchester. And so that kind of leads into the earlier part of the month, Glasgow, Bristol, London, and such. So they've got a new album talking about it. As you can see on the flyer, the songs they've released already are pretty great. So if you get the opportunity to, you should definitely go check them out. Coming up at the kind of the end of the month on this flyer here, we've got that Circle Jerks Gorilla Biscuits. They did a couple shows, took about a month off, and here in a couple weeks, they'll be starting up again. Columbus, Cincinnati, McKees Rocks, and Allentown, PA, and so forth. We'll get more into that because it's a bit out. A lot of that's a bit out. But if they're coming to your area, Circle Jerks, Gorilla Biscuits, 7 Seconds, Negative Approach, Murphy's Law, Cruel Hand, and Cosmic Joke. So a lot of really cool bands there. Today here in Salt Lake, Spiritual Cramp with Destiny Bond, No Guard, and Direct Threat. And I take that back. That was it at Marquise over Denver? Probably in Denver. I take that back because today's the 14th. That's the 13th. That's the day leading in. I was like, that's not the bands that I remember seeing they're supposed to be playing with, because that isn't the bands. But nonetheless, you can see that, and then leading into this flyer here, we've got the rest of those shows. The Salt Lake City one is today the 14th. They'll be in Reno on the 15th, San Francisco on the 16th, Oxnard 17th, 18th in Long Beach, San Diego 20th, LA 21st, Tijuana on the 22nd, getting into Phoenix on the 23rd, then heading over to Texas for Dallas-Fort Worth on the 24th, and then Springfield. That's crazy that they're doing almost a week, like 4 or 5 shows there in California, and then one more in Tijuana, and then they're only doing one in Texas. Pretty big jump, but hey, you got to play what you're going to play. Whole bunch of shows coming up for them in April, but it's going to be No Guard, Spiritual Cramp, Destiny Bond, Dead City, and Basic Needs, depending on, which area you're at. But great bands. Loved seeing No Guard last time they were here. Our pals in Blisterhead still have a few shows coming up. Next weekend, they'll be doing a weekender in Germany. As you can see in the middle of the flyer on the 19th, Kassel, then Essen on the 20th, and Oldenburg on the 21st. And then, as you see, they've got a bunch more shows coming up in celebration of their new album that came out at the end of last month. Then on March 20th, it's a punk show with a Bullshit Detector heading down to ATL. They'll be playing with Shape for Battle. Fuck yeah. Sick'em, Antagonizers ATL, Mugger, Powers That Be, Culture Shock. Looks like that one's going to be a lot of fun. There's a QR code. It's up there long enough. You can scan that QR code. It's going to be an all-ages show, and doors open at 7. And if the doors are open at 7, shows probably got to be starting shortly thereafter or going very late, because there's a lot of killer bands on that lineup for March 20th. Then a pre-CY Fest show featuring the Partisans, and this will be in LA at Regent Theater. This is Wednesday, March 25th. There'll also be Special Duties, the Oi Scouts, Clip 45, Crux, Who Killed Spiky Jacket, Mess, Corrupted Youth, Problem, Sick'em, Dogface Bastards. Holy shit, that is fucking loaded on that Wednesday. Doors are at 2, so get off work early because you want to see all of the bands on that one. Brought to you by Nothing Less Booking. Get them tickets at Ticketmaster, it looks like. And as we love, it is an all-ages show. Then heading to where in California? Indio in California, The Freeze with Noise Agents, and that'll be on Friday, March 20th. That is at the Dune Room in Indio, so go there. It's $15, 8 p.m., and again, all ages, love that. And I'm going to wrap up with a show that'll happen next weekend, Punk Rock Rodeo weekend. On March 19th, there's a pre-party show. As you could tell, there's Narcoleptic Youth, Death Surf, Dead on the Wire, Strega 13, and FONO, Friends of No One. That will be a 21 and older show at Tower Bar. That's in LA. No, San Diego, I believe. I think that's San Diego. I take it back. And then on the 22nd, the after party show, because Punk Rock Rodeo will be happening that weekend, you'll get the Los Angeles Misfits. I don't know what that is. Apocalypse Dudes doing Turbo Negro. So these are bands doing, cover shows, I guess it looks like. But that'll be an after-party show. It's only $10. The pre-party show is only $7. So do all that. Get yourself to Punk Rock Rodeo. I didn't have the flyer on that one, but it's a pretty big thing. So go check that out. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Live and Wired and Eric's Tales from the Pit, my brief tale from the pit. We appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next one.